All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Betco webinar series. My name is Mike Betz. I'm the Director of Training here at Betco, and today I'm joined by our Director of Floor Care, Jeff Iverson. Jeff, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Yep, so today you guys have signed up. We're going to be covering the topic, customizing your cleaning program, a guide for multi-surface floor care. So we're going to go through all of our slides, our presentation, and then we're going to save the Q&A for the end. So if you guys have not been on Zoom before, if you hover over your screen, there is a little Q&A button. So go ahead and click on that. And during the presentation, fill out any questions or any insight, anything else that you guys might want to put in there. And towards the end, when we get to questions at the end of the webinar, we will go ahead and answer those. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it along to Jeff Iverson, and he's going to run you guys through the next hour with the floor care presentation.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to join us today. We've got a jam-packed discussion here today and with many topics, and I sure hope we get through the topic list. So it's great to be with all of you, and I see a lot of familiar names on the attendee list. So glad to catch up with all of you again. So first of all, just again, a reminder on the Q&A. So we'll answer all the questions on the end. So type them into the Q&A format, the feature there. So let's review some of the topics we're going to try to get through today. So first of all, understanding floor types and their care. Second, choosing the right solution based on that floor type. Considerations when mapping a floor care strategy. Preventing damage, implementing regular upkeep of your floors, health and safety, and finally, with turnkey managed services. Flooring types. It's unbelievable the amount of floor types we have in our commercial settings today. It seems like the architects keep adding more and more different types of floor substrates into our buildings. And then we're asked to maintain those substrates without any training, without the proper equipment, without the proper labor, without adjusting anything at all. I was in a grocery store recently, and as I was walking through that store, I saw 5 different substrates in that same store, everything from soft to hard. And back when I started in this industry, which was a couple days ago, vinyl composite tile had 95+% of the commercial flooring that was out there, especially in retail, grocery, and education, and those type of facilities. So VCT or vinyl composite tile. Some of you probably remember the precursor to VCT, which is VAT, vinyl asbestos tile, and you can kind of guess why we don't do vinyl asbestos tile anymore. Now, we have a couple very, very popular flooring substrates that are gaining very popularity in the marketplace. Unfortunately, they're sold as no maintenance floors, but they could be further from the truth. I think all of you on the call here today, on the webinar today, firmly believe there's no such thing as a no maintenance floor type that's out there. So the first one would be LVT or LVP, luxury vinyl tile, luxury vinyl plank. That is a substrate that's going out that we'll talk about. Polished concrete, whether it's polished or coated, that is very, very popular in the marketplace, especially in grocery and retail. Terrazzo, whether it be cementatious terrazzo or epoxy type terrazzo, MMA, rubber, grouted tile, and natural stone. We're going to break down each one of these different flooring types and kind of talk about the pros and the cons and that as we get going here. The first thing when we start talking about the correct or the right maintenance strategy for a facility is identifying a number of qualifying factors. First of all, we need to go in and take a look at what are the substrates in the facility. What are all the substrates, and then what is the desired appearance of that substrate? Once we determine that, what our desired appearance is, then we can figure out, okay, are we going to clean it ourselves? Do we have the labor and the resources, the equipment to do it in-house, or do we need to reach outside and have an outside source come in and provide the labor and the equipment to clean that surface. Once we determine all of that, then we determine what is our budget, right? Because we may have, we want the highest looking floor, but we don't have the budget for that. So we start talking about the budget. First of all, we need to talk about the total budget and then break it down by chemical, equipment, and labor. And then we got to see what equipment we have today, what labor we have today. Is there more in the budget for equipment, more in the budget for labor, or are we going to have to make do with what we've got in place today? And that's what we're finding today is not only do we have to make do with what's in place today, but we really are having a challenge in hiring the number of people that we have FTEs in the budget for. So these are some of the qualifying factors that we need to take a look at when we are looking at the different substrates and flooring in our facilities. Here at Betco, every time we talk about floor care, we talk about the life cycle of floor care. And we have determined that we break it up into 3 distinct steps in floor care, and that's routine, interim, and restorative. Routine is what you're doing on a daily basis. Normally that's dust mopping, wet mopping, auto scrubbing with a daily cleaner, burnishing if desired, those type of things you do on a daily basis or a routine basis. And when what you do on a daily basis is not sufficing and that floor doesn't look as good as you want it to look, then that's when you go into interim. Interim is going to come back and restore that floor to where you want it to look and where your desired appearance is. Look, based on gloss, scuff resistance, scratch removal, all of those things that we look in a floor care program. So interim is going to be as needed, depending on the traffic type, depending on what your desired appearance and all of those factors come into play. Last but not least would be restorative. And restorative is always the most expensive step in the life cycle of floor care. If we're talking about floor finish, this is where we strip and finish the floor. We take the floor down to the bare tile and build it up again. Back in the interim step is when we do a top scrub and a recoat, where we're taking off a couple of coats of finish and then building up from there. But in restorative is when we're doing deep cleaning, we're doing deep extraction and soft floor, we're doing stripping and finishing in hard floor with resilient flooring. So routine, interim, and restorative. Obviously, we want to put a floor care program in place that limits or extends the time that we get to the green or the restorative step. Restorative step, as I mentioned, is the most expensive part of floor care. That's when you're buying stripper and buying finish and spending a lot of labor and to take care of that floor. So the longer we can extend that, the better it is for the facility and for the budget. All right, let's talk about a little bit about the substrates that we've got. VCT, everybody's familiar with VCT, 12 by 12 tile. It all looks very, very similar. That's one of the cons about VCT is there's not a lot of design options. You see a couple of pictures there, but the benefit is it has a long life. It withstands a lot of heavy loads, heavy traffic. It's very budget friendly. It's easy to put down. They've been doing it for years. Can go down on most floors, the concrete, whether it's level or not. And the only challenge with the VCT is the minimal pattern options. And then also, we all know that the life cycle of floor care is probably one of the most costly programs we have, because we do have to go to interim and restorative quite often. So routine, as it comes down on the bottom there, the life cycle of floor care, we're going to dust mop and daily clean, which is either wet mopping or auto scrubbing, and then burnishing if desired. What we're finding today is that burnishing is really, it's desired, but there's not the labor in place in which to do that. So burnishing is not very prevalent today. And then you go into interim as needed top scrub and recoat, which a top scrub In our definition, the top scrub is where you go in and you take the top 2 coats of finish off, and that's where the dirt and the discoloration gets embedded in. You start getting the yellowing, the traffic patterns, the dirt, and that's where you want to take that off, remove that, and then build up from there. So you're not going down to the bare tile. You're only taking off the top couple 2 coats. And then restorative, which would be annually or extended. A lot of our customers today that we're trying to extend to 3 to 5 years in which that they would need to strip. And if they're on a good life cycle of floor care maintenance program, they can extend it to that period of time. And that's the stripping and recoating. Luxury vinyl tile. This has become so popular. Last I looked, which I've seen numbers, it's probably been since 2020, but it was between $4 and $5 billion in sales in the LVT, and it's sold as a no maintenance. Put it down and forget it. And for the most part, we find that that's not true because of the wear layer that's on LVT. If you take a look on the bottom right-hand side of this slide, you'll see what the different layers of LVT and LVP are. And at the very top is a wear layer. And that wear layer is very, very thin. It can come from 5 ml, which is, give you a reference, would be about 1 Post-it note thick. So on most of the residential floor, it's like 1 Post-it note thick. On commercial, the most expensive LVT is probably about 4 Post-it notes thick, or about 20 milliliters thick. So it's not very thick. That's the wear layer. Underneath that wear layer is that printed layer. That's where you get your vibrant colors, you get your pictures, your logos, all that stuff in that printed layer. Once you wear through that wear layer, you're into that printed layer, and that's where the floor starts uglying out, and that's where you get soil embedment, you get liquid and fluids built, staining that underneath that wear layer. So that's where the maintenance of LVT, LVP is very, very important. So why do people like LVT so much? Mainly because you can have just about whatever design you want. You can take Mike Betz's picture, for example, and bed it on that printed layer of that floor. And then you can put the wear layer on top. That's why there's so many logos and so vibrant. You can do just about anything you want with LVT flooring. The planking, they make it look like wood floor in the planking. So it's fairly budget friendly. It can withstand heavy loads like from carts and those things. Fairly long life if the life cycle of maintenance of floor care is maintained, but the designed options are unlimited. The floor must be level because when you put, especially if you're doing the sheet LVT in that, you can really see the undulations in the concrete and the imperfections, the cracks and stuff if it's not level. Now, also a con about LVT is that it's not very impact resistant. If you drop something fairly heavy on LVT, it's going to make an impression in that floor that you're not going to be able to recover from. So those are some of the challenges that you have with LVT, and we see that going more and more into commercial every day, into grocery, into retail, and other settings. Now, when you talk about LVT, the manufacturers recommend just cleaning the floor, but we subscribe to that in most cases that you need a sacrificial coating or finish on that floor to take the abuse, because that wear layer is not very thin. So if you put some finish on top of that, and Betco has a full LVT program called Elevate. We've got a gloss product and a matte product. We got a daily cleaner, and we also have a stripper that won't harm the LVT as well. But on a routine basis, you're going to dust mop, daily clean, wet mop or auto scrubber. You're going to burnish if desired if you've got a burnishing program, like if you're in the grocery store and you've got VCT and LVT, and you're going to go right from one substrate to the other. Top scrub and recoat as necessary, and then strip and recoat as necessary, hopefully, 3 to 5 years out. Concrete is becoming more and more popular. A lot of retail and grocery and education accounts are pulling up their VCT flooring, and then they're hiring companies to come in and polish those floors. So the challenge with that is no concrete floor is the same. They're all different, and especially if they were not poured to be polished. Today, if you know you're going to polish your concrete floor, the mix that they use is significantly different than if you're not going to polish that floor with the aggregates and the type of cement and the water and all that they put in there. So if you take, so when we rip up VCT and put it, we have a significant labor challenge in front of us to be able to grind, hone, and polish that floor to make it look like in the picture here. And then we have a maintenance challenge in keeping it looking in that way as well. So the pro of concrete is obviously it's everywhere, right? It's the base of everything we've got out there. It withstands heavy loads, has a very, very long life. The cons is stain and etching, right? Anytime you get something with a little acidity in it, whether it would be ketchup or heaven forbid, pickle juice or vinegar or something like that in a grocery setting on that floor, it's going to eat right through all of that polish and right into the floor. And then it's a challenge to remediate that, etch back out and make that floor look like the rest of the floor. If you're going to polish it, it must be level. The fewer the cracks, the better. The more level the floor, the better to get the gloss and the sheen that you want on that floor. And then there's also the misconception in the market that you polish the floor today and just let it be, just clean it for forever. And I don't know if some of you are old enough to remember the old Fram oil filter commercials that said, pay me now or pay me later. Well, and with a concrete floor, you could pay now and pay later. It's very, very expensive to polish your floor, and to keep it and maintain it is very important. So on a polished concrete floor, in the life cycle of floor care, routine, we're going to dust mop and daily clean with a wet mop or an auto scrubber, preferably an auto scrubber. Interim, we're going to remediate etch and stains and polish and stain defense. A lot of floors, there's a lot of companies out there on their maintenance program or on their polishing program. They're not using densifiers. They're not using stain guards. We're a firm believer that densifiers are very, very important to polished concrete floors to harden and prepare that concrete for the polishing and for the traffic that's going to go on that floor. And then we highly recommend a stain guard as well, not to resist 100% of the spills that go on that concrete, but to give the operator time in which to remove the fluid or whatever is causing that spot or stain on the concrete. Give them time to remove it before it does a deep etch or a deep stain. And if you're in grocery, as I mentioned, whether it be an acidic type product or maybe it be wine or olive oil or something like that, there's a lot of stains and etches to be remediated out of concrete floors. And then right now, a lot of times they wait 6 to 10 years, and then they come in and they pretty much start over again. They hone, densify, polish, stain guard, and then shine their floor on a restorative basis there. There are also a lot of concrete floors out there that they don't want to spend the money to polish the floor, but they want to have a high shine on that concrete floor. Another option would be a concrete coating. Obviously, there are some very technical two-part epoxies and two-part urethanes and things like that, CRU, those type of things out there. But there's also other type of coatings out there that are very chemical resistant that can give a high shine on that floor. And that would be more like a traditional finish that you would use on vinyl composite or VCT floor. The next substrate that you find out there that is cementatious would be Terrazzo. Most of the old or all of the old Terrazzo that is out there has a Portland cement base. So you take Portland cement and then you add marble chips to it, And that was the traditional epoxy or traditional terrazzo. Today, we've got epoxy terrazzo, polyacrylic terrazzo, and there's a lot of terrazzo that is not cementatious out there. How you take care of that floor is different if it's cementatious or if it's not. If it's not cementatious, and you can tell there's a number of different ways you can tell if it's cementatious or not, or tests that you can do. But number one, you take a look at these pictures here. If it's epoxy resin, you can colorize that epoxy and have whatever color. So the design options are much, much more with a epoxy-based terrazzo than with a cementatious or concrete-based terrazzo. It's a two-component product, endless color selection, has less susceptible to cracking. So cementatious terrazzo will crack just like concrete. And you can see that in the floor where the epoxy is much more resistant to that. The challenge with epoxy terrazzo is that it's not vapor permeable. So a lot of old buildings don't have moisture mitigation programs in place or products in place. And if they don't, then you really can't use the epoxy terrazzo on top. But if they do have that, if it's a new building, and the other benefits of the epoxy is that it's much lighter, especially if you're going up into the higher floors within a building. Cementatious terrazzo withstands heavy loads. Actually, they all do, whether it's epoxy, polyacrylic, or traditional. Long life for that floor. One of the benefits of cementatious terrazzo is that it can be outside as well as inside, where the newer epoxies and polyacrylics cannot be outside, just inside. The poor stain resistance and aesthetics, mainly in the cementatious. They must be level. The floor of the concrete must be level underneath, and can be very expensive to maintain these floors. If the terrazzo is cementatious, it can be polished just like a concrete floor. So you can hone and polish, hone, densify, polish, and put a stain guard on, and then shine that product on the cementatious terrazzo. If it is a epoxy terrazzo, you're probably going to coat it with a concrete type coating that's going to be chemical resistant and going to provide the gloss that you need. And then you would do a routine of daily cleaning with an auto scrubber or wet mop, top scrub and recoat, and then strip and recoat from there. Rubber. We mainly see the rubber floors as you see in the picture here. You see it, actually I see it a lot on stair treads going up and down stairs. And but you're starting to see it a lot of other places. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's very, very durable. You can drop stuff on it. All kinds of traffic can go over it. Heavy loads can go over it. It's impact resistant. There's a lot of different design options. Probably the most design option I see, as you see in this picture here, is with the round circles on it that you have there. The challenge with rubber is that it's very absorbent. So that way it's not water resistant, that actually the water will absorb into that rubber and stay wet for a long time. You spill something on it, it can actually absorb into the rubber, which makes it more difficult to clean. It does have seams, as you can see when they're cutting it here, so that way the seams can come apart in that. And when that floor starts looking, the rubber starts looking bad, it looks bad very, very quickly. So that's where the life cycle of floor care and the maintenance of that with a routine interim and restorative is very, very important. And the daily cleaning of that. And at Betco, we prescribe the same solution for rubber as we do for our luxury vinyl tile and luxury vinyl planking. MMA is a poured product. I see in a lot of different retail and grocery applications. And there's a lot of benefits to it, that it's highly durable. It's easy and quick and fast to go down. Highly durable. It'll withstand a heavy load. Another benefit is that it's chemical resistant, UV resistant. So if you have big windows with a lot of sun coming in and that is UV resistant, you can have do a lot of different designs, not a lot of different colors, but a lot of different designs you can put in that MMA. One of the challenges with MMA is that it doesn't seem to want to bond to that subfloor, the concrete down below, very well. So that's when you start getting peeling up of that poured floor there. And then also it seems to lose its shine and durability quickly. And that's why a correct maintenance program is very important. When I mentioned in the onset of the discussion here today about a grocery store that I was in a grocery store that had MMA in there in the floor. They had LVT, they had VCT, they had some carpet in there as well. So a number of different, and trying to maintain all of this with the same equipment, with the same people creates quite a challenge. So routine, dust mop, daily clean, obviously an auto scrubber. We firmly believe that an auto scrubber is the best way to clean the floor because you're introducing clean solution, you're agitating it, and you're sucking it up into every square inch of that floor instead of mopping around dirty water. Top scrub and recoat if you do put a coat on the MMA, and then strip and recoat from there. Grouted tiles. We're finding grouted tiles getting grout going into so many locations where it was not before, whether it's with slate or ceramic, whatever you can see. And the challenge is with the grout itself. And the grout can start turning ugly brown, ugly black, soiling, greasy, because a lot of times people are mopping it. They don't have the proper equipment. They're mopping soil from the top of the surface of the tile into the grouted surfaces, and it's not cleaning out in that. So the proper equipment to get down and flick the soils and dirt out of the grout and keeping that grout clean is very, very important. I'm sure most of you that have been doing this for a while, you can go over to the side to the edge of the room and take a look at what the grout is supposed to look like compared to where it is where the traffic patterns are. So, but ceramic tile, for example, it ease of maintenance. It is water resistant, durable, long life. There's many different design options, and the cons are it's very, very loud. It's not a real stain resistant product, so you can stain it fairly easy. Cold, dust, routine, interim, and restorative in the life cycle of floor care. Dust mop and scrub that floor. Deep clean, and then deep clean. There are sealers available for a lot of these tiles. And I've seen systems out there where you just seal the grout. So that way it's not turning black and dark brown, and you allows the soil to come out and it doesn't take the stain. Also products that will seal the entire tile and the grout. Natural stone. We're seeing more and more natural stone be brought into our facilities, and obviously they all are a little bit different. You take marble, for example, compared to a travertine or a limestone. Totally different type of substrates. The marble is very hard, very non-porous. You don't want to use anything too high or too low on the alkaline scale on marble. Limestone is very porous. So the techniques that you use to maintain these floors is significantly different when you're going from one substrate to another. But the nice thing about these tiles, these natural stone tiles, it withstands heavy loads, withstand a lot of heavy traffic. They've got a long life, especially if they're maintained. But we all know that at some point in time that you will see a traffic pattern in any type of flooring that's out there. I have not seen a floor substrate out there that over time after traffic that you will not see where that traffic pattern is. There's many design options. Some of them are mostly porous, as I mentioned, other than marble. Some of them scratch easy, maybe, or some that don't scratch easy, but once they get scratched, really it's very difficult to get the scratches out. You need a poultice, you need a powder, and it takes a significant amount of labor in which to remove those scratches. And they're very expensive to put into place. Mainly, you're going to routine auto scrub the floors, and then you're going to deep clean them from that point on for interim and restorative. That's pretty much goes through the most common substrates that we're finding in commercial applications today and transitioning into the equipment. And we talk a lot about equipment because it takes the savings of the floor in, first of all, equipment saves labor, saves the floor, increases performance, increased productivity. There's a lot of opportunities for equipment. So compared to wet mopping a floor to using a 20-inch auto scrubber or a 32-inch auto scrubber, depending on the size of the facility, obviously you can do it much better, much faster. So auto scrubbers and all kinds of equipment that increases performance, increases productivity, reduces cost, increases safety and sustainability. So there's less chance for slip falls, those type of things, operator fatigue when we're using equipment. Few specific pieces of equipment and their applications. Two of the most versatile pieces of equipment out there are auto scrubbers and floor machines or buffers, swing machines, whatever you call them. Auto scrubbers are very versatile. They'll do everything from deep cleaning to polishing, honing, grinding, and polishing concrete and terrazzo. They'll do everything in between there. They'll help in your stripping the floors, not to agitate the stripping solution, and then also to pick it back up. Floor machines are very, very versatile. Everything from sanding floor to spray buffing, deep scrubbing. Even you can bonnet carpets and everything with floor machines. Furnitures obviously have a single use, and that is to burnish the floor to bring up the gloss. Stripping machines are very labor saving, very productive, and their objective in life is stripping the floors. When we talk about identifying which pieces of equipment to bring into our facility, obviously the budget plays a big factor into it, but what do you want that machine to do, where you're going to use it, who's going to use it, what all of the applications. When you start talking about an auto scrubber, do you want a rotary auto scrubber? Do you want a cylindrical auto scrubber? Do you want an orbital? There's different different auto scrubbers for different substrates and different solutions in your facility. So you need to make sure that it can perform all of the jobs that you want it to perform on all the substrates that you have in your facility. And again, nothing beats a live demonstration in the facility for application for your substrates. Productivity, how much productivity is in the machine? How much faster does it do it? Does it free up your FTEs to do other things in the building? We're not looking to replace FTEs. We're looking to have those FTEs do jobs and tasks that aren't being done today because there's just not enough time or just not enough people. So what kind of productivity enhancement do you have with the machine that you're looking at? What is the total cost of ownership and operation? You take a look at the batteries. Does it have lithium batteries? Does it have AGM batteries? Does it have lead acid batteries? Does it have foam protection? Does it have battery protection? Does it have those type of things? What kind of warranty? What kind of down period? Does it drive down your daily cleaning cost? Can I clean my building with an auto scrubber in 1 hour instead of 5 hours? Those type of things you take a look at when looking at an auto scrubber, for example. Also, when you consider it, you got to consider who all is going to use the machine. Can they all use it? Ease of use is very, very important in turning the machine, putting the squeegees up and down, using the speed control. All of those things are very, very important. It's got to be comfortable for every operator, from the shortest to the tallest, and to make sure that it is maneuverable in your facility. I've gone to facilities before and they bought an auto scrubber and they found out it didn't fit into the storage closet. Or maybe they bought an auto scrubber and they found out that it didn't fit into the elevator to get to floors 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we ran into all of that. So make sure that it does fit into all the considerations that you need to in your facility. And again, that going back to that, it will clean all of the substrates in your facility. Sustainability and safety, more and more important all the time. Do you have a lead building? Are you looking for lead points? Those type of things. Does this reduce waste? Is there an onboard chemical management system that reduces the amount of water and the amount of chemical that you're going to use and the freight to get the chemical out to you? Is it healthier for the environment? We all know that anytime that we can encapsulate any type of airborne dust or anything in a solution and not put it into the air, that it's very, very important. One of the things that we find in a lot of facilities is that while they're out there taking care of their floors and their different floor substrates, they're not taking care of the equipment that they're using to take care of those substrates. So this is a little quick reminder about like an automatic scrubbers, things that need to be done on a routine basis or daily basis. So this would be the life cycle of equipment. So here's a list here of things that need to be done to maintain that equipment so it'll continue to work for you. So a very simple list, but it's something that people forget on a regular basis. How many times have you picked up that auto scrubber tank in that tank cover and been knocked out by the odor and the smell in that tank because it wasn't rinsed out? Same thing for propane burnishers. If you are burnishing and using a propane, there's a lot of maintenance that those machines need. And if you take care of those machines, that they'll take care of you. And the main thing is checking the oil level. And one of the things that we find on auto scrubbers and burnishers quite often is the pad that's on that floor as its use of life left a long time ago. So it seems like people are hesitant to change the pads underneath an auto scrubber or a burnisher. So it's important to check those out and change those. All right, troubleshooting. We get asked a lot of questions. A lot of time people call in or we're out in the field and they're asking us troubleshooting questions. A lot of the questions that these troubleshootings are around floor finish or anything that we're going to, a coating or a finish, we're going to put on a floor. And I'm not going to read through all of those, but some of the most common ones we have is if somebody says they've got a streaked floor when they've got done, and they've either recoated too soon, as we know that, you know, a lot of times we're in a hurry, we've got to get in and out of a building, we got to get on to other tasks, and we're putting on that second, third, or fourth coat, and we're hurrying up, we're putting on that coat too soon. And what happens is I think we all know that floor finish dries from the top down. So it may feel dry to the touch. You may walk on it and not see your footprint, but as soon as you put another coat on it, you're liquefying that initial coat or the coat or coats below plus the coat you have on, and it's going to take a lot more time to dry and to cure out for that next coat. So we don't want to rush it too fast, and we don't want to put it down too thin either. So we also find that there's a lot of challenges out there where we don't properly strip that floor when we are going to strip that floor, that we do a fairly good job, but there's some patches and splotchy marks in that floor where we've left finish that has absorbed stripper into it, and then we go to put finish on top of it, a new coat on top, and it looks splotchy, and what happens is there's stripper in that little patch of finish that's left on the floor. You put finish on top, and that stripper goes to work again and starts stripping out the finish that you tried to put on top, and you're trying to make it look nice again. So, you know, a lot of times we all know that the floors are different, that when you put on that first coat, if you strip out a floor, that first coat, that it may be 100% absorbed into that tile. You may see nothing at all. It may take a good couple coats before you start getting any build on that floor as well. if the gloss on that floor is, if it's poor after you get done, there could be dirt soil load on that floor. You could be using the wrong pad or brushes. One of the things that we're finding out today is that people are moving more and more to low and no maintenance finishes. If you use a low maintenance finish that's not designed to be burnished, and if you put a burnisher and a traditional burnishing pad on that finish, all you're going to get is a bunch of powder. That powder is then going to fly up into the air, create an airborne particulate, and it's going to get over anything like you're in a grocery, everything on the bottom shelf, and it's also going to get into the air and cause breathing problems for people. So what we're finding today is that we're burnishing less than ever before, but we're still bringing out that burnisher and using that pad that we used on our frequent burnish pad. So that is something to make sure that we've got the right pad for the finish that we're using today, and if we are burnishing infrequently. Excessive black marking and that, if you got excessive black marking, then you've got a product that doesn't have SRT in it, which is our scuff resistant technology. Powdering, I've already talked about that. If you've got a glossy floor and it seems like you're losing that gloss, you may be using the wrong cleaner. Again, if you're using a solvent-based cleaner, or maybe you're using a rental dust mop that's using a solvent-based oil dust mop treatment that is creating discoloration, yellowing in that floor and removing that gloss as well. That could be the yellow film, the film that we're talking about here. I didn't mention this at the front, but we will send each of you as attendees, we'll send you a link to this recording, and then also send you a PDF of this deck, so that way you've got it, and maybe one of the questions you've got. So scratching a finish, and again, I've seen people go out with burnishers and or buffers and scratch the finish because of the residue that's left underneath that floor. You always dust mop a floor before you wet mop it or auto scrub it, and you always wet mop or auto scrub it before you burnish. I'm sure most of you, like I, have been into places that burnish frequently, and you look at that floor and you've got a very shiny, very dirty floor because they've embedded that dirt with that burnisher down deep into that floor. Moving on, before we open it up to questions, and that health and safety. A lot of things that we talked about throughout this discussion today was to create a healthy and safety building. So we're not trying to get particulate into the air. We're trying to make sure that the floor meets the ASTM coefficient of friction standards, that the floor is not too slippery, it's not too tacky, creating trips, those type of things. So a lot of times people ask me, is a shiny floor more slippery than a matte floor or not shiny floor? Not at all. Floors become slippery when a foreign particulate is put on that floor, whether it be dust, dirt, grime, grease, or any type of fluid. That's what creates a slippery floor. All of the manufacturers, all their products meet or exceed the ASTM standards that are out there. So health and safety. So slip and fall prevention is very, very important. Betco has a module on slip and fall prevention, not only on how to prevent it, but what to do if there is a slip fall. And how do you go to the rescue to that person? How do you document it? We've got a whole module on that. Worker safety obviously is very, very important. And then there's a couple that are required by OSHA on an annual basis that we sit down and go through the hazards of using the chemicals that we introduce into the workplace. And that is a hazard communication standard. And it's required that we go through the safety data sheet and identify the PPE, the personal protective equipment that's required to use the chemicals that we require them to use in the workplace. That's an annual requirement by OSHA that we've got that training module built that we can help you do that. And the second one that OSHA requires on an annual basis is the bloodborne pathogen standard, and that is anytime that you're cleaning up blood or bodily fluid that you're cleaning up and disposing of, there are very stringent regulations on what you need to do, how to protect yourself, how to discard of that and such. So it's very, very important that we look at the health and safety, not only of the occupants that come into the building and the guests, but as importantly or more importantly are the workers that we work with that we ask to maintain these buildings. Last but not least, just a plug about Betco's Turnkey Managed Services. This is a service that we provide to our facilities that once we go through the step-by-step process here of pretty much everything we talked about today, but we can guarantee the facility, the outcomes in your facility. The first 3 steps, which when we take our subject matter experts out, we benchmark and understand the facility, the substrates, your needs, your desires, your wants, those type of things. Then we assess and we prescribe, much like when you go to a doctor and they diagnose what challenge you have, what ailment you have, and then prescribe a solution for that. We do the same thing, and then we implement what our solution is that we prescribe in your facility. We come back and look at the results of the test to make sure that we're on the same page, that we're meeting the objectives that we put in place. Then we onboard you as a customer, and we continue with training and compliance. We have one of the best, if not the best, training programs in the marketplace today with our My Betco. If you want more information on that, please go to our website. And then we come back on quality assurance. So we take a look at, are we meeting the objectives on an ongoing basis? And then last but not least is a full circle communication, that we just continue the communication and make sure that we're meeting and exceeding what your expectations are in the facility. So with that, we're going to open it up to questions.
Yep, so we have 10 minutes left. If you guys do have any questions, currently we just have one right now. Just remember to use the Q&A at the bottom, and we'll go through them as they come in. The first one from Mary was, do you guys have demo scrubbers that we can use for possible opportunities? And so we do have our field team out there working with our distribution teams and end users that do have trailers that they pull with them, and they have their own demo equipment. So we can definitely team up on those opportunities with you guys, go out there, and whether it's an auto scrubber, a small auto scrubber, riders, burnishers, low speed swing machines, carpet extractors, whatever you guys need, we can definitely help out with that. And if you don't know who your rep is, we can, feel free to shoot us a message and we can definitely link you to that person.
Other questions?
Yep, a couple more popping in. So the next one was, do you have a cross-reference guide for competitors, specifically Spartan?
If you go to the Betco website, we do have a drop down where you can go to the product section, and you can put in whatever competitor that you would like to put in the competitor's name and then the product that you want to cross-reference, and then our product will immediately pop up with the technical data sheet of explaining that product.
Yep, so a couple ways to get to that, like Jeff was saying, it's on our homepage. If you guys scroll down, you'll see how we compare. And then also, if you click on products at the top of Betco.com, then also on the right side, it'll be a cross-reference. And the third option would be on the iBet mobile app, really convenient to use if you guys are in the field a lot as well. So great question. The next one is, what is the best way to manage a floor care program across multiple facilities?
First of all, that's a great question. First of all, you need to identify the substrates in all the different facilities and then create the scope of work of what you're going to do in the life cycle of floor care: daily, interim, and restorative. But to begin with, you need to identify what the desired outcome is in each one of those buildings. Is it the same? Is it different? What equipment is in each building? The manpower you have, because it may be different from building to building based on the manpower and equipment that you have available. So my recommendation is work with one of our specialists to be able to go out and help you identify that.
Great. So the next one is for tile and grout. So which of your products does tile and grout restoration? And we have a couple different options here. So we have an STG program. Even if you guys are on our website too, and just go to solutions, floor care, and then STG. So there's a brochure in there. But if you're, depending on if you're in a kitchen with fats, oils, and greases, you can use one of our multiple degreasers. And then if you're going to be more in a restroom area with a lot of soap, scum, and hard water buildup, you might use something more acidic or one of our peroxide cleaners. So there's a solution called MAD, which is mild acid detergent, which you can pair along with our Crewman Orbital and a turf pad. And there's really no better way to clean grout with that program right there. Do you have full programs for all floor types? Yep. So once again, if you go to betco.com, solutions, floor care, there's going to be floor care programs for carpet, for wood floors. So your sports floors, your gym floors, tile and grout, there's a specific program. LVT, the program is called Elevate, specific cleaners, finish, and a neutral base stripper, so it's not going to damage those floors. And then VCT, it has its own program, and then concrete as well. So yes, we do have programs for each of those floor substrates. All right, last one I see on here, and you guys can keep asking, what we will definitely stay on. What stripper would you recommend for urethane finishes?
If it's a water-based urethane finish, I would recommend Extreme. And if it is a solvent-based urethane, I would recommend Liquid Strip.
So that is everything I see in the chat box right now. Those are great questions. So if you guys want to keep asking, we will definitely be staying on. It's 2:55 right now. We will be on till 3, so I'll keep looking at the chat box.
Yeah, thank you all for your time and attention today. Hopefully you got something out of this. Like I said, we'll be sending you a copy of the PowerPoint. If you got suggestions on future webinars that would help, or if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll get them answered as soon as possible. All right, it looks like that might be the last question. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attendance, and we'll catch you on the next webinar.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.